Hey, this is BA and welcome to Undercover with Orb. What we're going to be doing in this one is taking a look at some of the nuances of Orb. I'm going to take you through an example forecast, and you can see how it's all intricately added in and everything like that. Let's get started on that. If you take a look at the video I made that looks at W.D. Gann's 1929 forecast, you will see he was off a couple of days at some times, while other points were bang on. In practice, this is called orb, or another way to look at it by Gann aficionados is lost motion in time. You've heard about lost motion in price in some of my other videos. This is lost motion with time. This creates a little bit of what Gann called slippage, and it's normal. Orb works like this. You have a mean date that the time cycle is due, and the turn can come in 2 days either side of that. So like if your cycle mean date projects to a Wednesday, you know that it will come in Monday through Friday, which is 2 days either side of that. If you have ever traded, you know that this presents a problem, as you don't want to be waiting all week for a turn. In order to overcome this, an orb technique is placed over the mean dates so that the turn can generally be narrowed down to within a 48-hour window. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. There's other ways of doing it that it can be narrowed down a lot more than that, but this is just one level. There are various orb techniques in Tunnel. I use what I call the Adirondack Mountains from Tunnel. It is a planetary-based orb system and is used on all of the forecasts that I share. Some have asked if it is possible to do intraday turns with this planetary orb system. The answer to that is no. Planets are not that precise, although there are other methods for that. If you have my free lessons, which I share from my website, you know about averaging the repetitions of the time cycles, because that's covered in lesson 1 of those free lessons. If not, no worries. I'll show you a little bit of how to do it here. Okay. This works from cycle repeats from the past. Cycle 1, repeated at it, meaning the turn occurred at 310.3 degrees. Cycle 2 repeat, the turn occurred at 312 degrees. Cycle 3 repeat occurred at 310.5 degrees. You add those up, you divide by 3, and you get an average of 310.9. Okay, you go to your handy dandy ephemeris, and you'll notice that 310.9 gets hit between December 14th and December 15th. Notice that this is set at noon. It's 310.9 is about dead center between these. Okay, so you actually, instead of having one mean date, you'll have 2 here. Okay, so, the mean date given the 14th or the 15th. Now, if we use 2 days either side of that, we have 1, 2. So it can come in the 12th, 13th, 14th here. It's not going to come in. It can come in Saturday or Sunday, but it won't show up until Monday. Okay. So here you have 12th, 13th, 14th, or 17th that it can come in. Now, instead of sitting there all week waiting for it to come in, what you do is you put it, you run it through what could be called a filter. Okay, and that filter will give you generally about a 48-hour window. In a forecast, each pivot is taken through an orb process. The order of the pivots goes high, low, no exceptions. Then one has a completed forecast. Let's take a look at an example of this. The mean dates for the Euro-US dollar for July 2012 coming from averages of past repetitions. Okay, July 1, July 12, July 19th, July 26th. Okay. Now, here's those same mean dates I just gave you, and we've taken it through an orb process, and these are what the projected dates would be in this example. Okay, July 1's the same. July 12th here gives us July 14th here. July 19th here gives us July 20th here. So there's a little bit of difference, okay? But whereas here on this, the orb is 2 days either side, okay? On this one, the orb is about a day either side. which in reality is about a 48-hour window. There's weekends and yes, all that stuff, holidays, but generally about a 48-hour window for a term. And in trading, and I can interject this. In trading, what I do is, if you've seen some of my other videos, there'll be like price bands. When a price gets in, what I call a price square or price band, sometimes I'll just sell out depending on what's going on around me at the time. Or sometimes I'll throw on a trailing stop and roll it through. You've seen that in my other videos, so I'm not going to cover it here. Okay, but we're worried only about time here, because if time's wrong, price is going to be wrong. Okay, so the forecasted dates would be July 1, July 14th, July 20, and July 25. Okay. The next step is to check the high-low rotation coming into the month. The June 26 pivot, and we're going to take a look at this in a minute. The June 26 pivot, which was the last pivot before the July 2012 forecast, came in as a low. This means we will have the following rotation: high, low, high, low. Now, if this June 26 pivot, if that would have been a high, then this would have been reverse rotation. Low, high, you see. Okay, so let's go take a look at that Euro US dollar for July 2012, see how this plays out. Oh, by the way, write down these dates so that make sure you have them, and we'll go take a look at it. All right, and here we are in 2012. And we talked about that June 26 pivot. Where is that? That's right here. Okay, right here. All right, so this is I know the technical low's here, but we actually go up to a high. June 29th is the actual high, and July 2nd. And our projected date was a July 1 high. Now you could say, okay, well, the actual high is June 29. Okay. You can say that's the actual high. And then there's the 30th, and then there's the 1st. So you missed it by 2 days. No, it came in over the weekend. That's a weekend. See how we go June 29th and we go July 2nd. That's a weekend, okay? So on that hit, sometimes it comes in on Fridays and sometimes it comes in on Mondays. You really need to know price to know, which day it's going to come in at. So we draw our first line from our June 26 low base up to the high here, okay? It could be here or it could be here. I think the actual high is actually here. Okay, and the reason for that is look at this. Okay, how that sits on that line. If you see my other videos, and forecast recaps, you've seen that line. Okay, so you got July 2nd there, and so we're a day off. Forecast was July 1, came in July 2nd, but it was a weekend. Okay, or this way it's 2 days off, but it's a weekend, so it's you're fine. Our next day is a July 14 low. That would be this here, and it came in on the 13th. Okay. See there again, that line, boom, boom. It cuts it just a little bit there, and it cuts it this. There's a reason why it cuts this one, but we won't go into that. Well, look at that. Wait. Hold on. What if we drew this one day over? We'd get even better synchronicity. You know what? I bet you that's where, that's the 16th, because that's a weekend. This is the 13th, and this is the 16th. That's a weekend. But I bet you anything that's where that pivot is. We cut it here a little bit, but here we're on it, and here's resistance going down. It's probably here on the 16th. But either way, it's our forecast was July 14th, which was a Saturday, and you got it either Friday or Monday. No, depends on how you want to play that. Our next one's a July 20th high. Looks like July 19th. We'll draw that in. And I have not yet, but I'm going to make a video on this line at some point. There or there. Huh. That could be... We'll call it here just to see this. Let's see, 1, 2. Yeah, it could be here. This is probably it. Okay, and our next pivot was a July 25 low. Came in July 24, 25. Somewhere down here. I know where the technical low. It looks like we're a day off on the technical low. Here. What does this do? Yeah, see if you draw that in there, how it cuts that line there, there. This is our low. I bet you we nailed it. We're either one day off or we nailed it there. Oops. Okay. So pick your point there. Now, in forecasts, and if you've seen some of mine, sometimes I'm 2 days off, and hopefully that gets cut down a lot. What it is what's been the problem is I've been doing this manually. I'm a big believer in working with this stuff manually, which means I actually, because I'm using an astrological orb technique, I actually go to the charts, the wheels, and work it with that way. And we came up with them after years of doing this, and that's the key. After years of doing it manually, we came up with the process because there's things I was missing, and I missed two on different markets, completely different markets in April. And so I went to my software writer guy, one of them I know, and I said, hey, can you write this? I need it to do this. And he did. He came back. So hopefully some of that was just human error. It wasn't system error. And so that gets pinned down and stuff. And if you look at WD Gann's forecast, there was times when he was 2-3 days off. That's rare, but it does happen. The 3 days is rare. It does happen. 2 days is getting a little sloppy. Okay. 3 days is it's a fault of the forecaster, not a fault of the system. So anyway, that's how it works. And on these, you have to understand really how price works in this. Okay. Because I know, look at this. I mean, anyone will tell you this is the low here. Okay. Right here on this date, July 13. Okay. And then this is the 16th, so it's over a weekend. But everyone will say, well, that's the low right there. Why didn't you use it? Look at your lines, because when you're working with price, you know where that price is going to go. And the price, after years of aligning price with this line, I'm like, okay, well, this is how price works. Okay. So here, we're following the line down, and then boom, we really go down. We almost get price ahead of time. So we go sideways for a little bit and then come down here. Once you understand price, you get to see these moves in and out, and you get this intuitive feel for price. And you can just look at this stuff and go, okay, it's going here. This is what's going. I have so many people that write me, and they're like, hey, BA, what's this doing in this part of the month or whatever? And they'll get lost in the cycles, and I'll be able to take a look at it and say, oh, it's doing this, this, and this. Well, that's because of seeing it through the eyes of how price works. And that's really critical, even though this video is not about price. BA goes off on little tangents at times, but all good information. And if you have gained insight from my videos, subscribe so you can get the latest on my free market calls, updates, commentary, and teachings. You know what? In the book Tunnel, Robert Gordon represents certain things at certain times. Like in the beginning, he's Robert Gordon Cottonhead. His brother calls him Cottonhead. Okay, there's a reason why he does it. Then later, he is called the Supreme Commander. So he changes characters. What's really going on is these relate entirely to different things. Like Robert Gordon Cottonhead is completely different than Supreme Commander. Okay, so that's an important key. Robert changes things. He's describing certain elements of a system by changing Robert Gordon's character. As you can see, knowledge is priceless. Hey, this is BA reminding you can succeed. Take care. Bye-bye.